all over the place, sleeping with friends from high school. The community gave back to me and really like invested love into me. And so now I am where I am right now. I just want to give back. Because, you know, love is like a magic penny. The more you give, the more you have. And I would really like to say that I'm, you know, I'm full of it and running over, and it's pouring out and spilling out into everybody who's in my life. And I just want to give back. Yeah, I honestly, like my life mission statement is just to be a living sermon of love. And that's it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Mohamud.
Yep. So my name is Muhammad Ali. I'm also an Augsburg University grad. Currently, I'm into data analytics, but in school, I studied computer science and economics. A huge motivation for me has kind of been just kind of the community I grew up around and trying to be a different kind of role model to the kids that grew up in the neighborhoods that I've lived at, and trying to show them that there's a different route that they can take in life.
Excellent. Excellent. My name is Rafael Lorenz. I went to Muhlenberg College, a small liberal arts school in Allentown, PA. I did the quintessential, I'm going to take a break from college and sports, went home and had a kid. And I am that dad from Facebook, as it were. So the voice that I've been given, I will say I've squandered. I have not used the voice that I've had. And this is an opportunity, meeting gentlemen like yourselves and just people in the community and just people around the world that have just sort of tuned in to my video. It's just been sort of moving in, and obviously linking up with Rai, who has reminded me that my voice does obviously have some sort of resonance and an effect on people that I had no clue. So my purpose is coming from, I guess, a source of energy that I really can't, it's like this palatable thing that I can't quite put my hands on. And linking up with gentlemen like yourselves and people in the community that really just sort of amplify the message from different lenses, I think is why I'm here. I think that, you know, there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with this that found me, a certain level of embracing hypocrisy, as we speak of, and really saying, you know what, I can't preach that my child is a leader and name him as a leader and not lead by example myself. And I think that there's a voice that needs to be heard. And I think what's most important is the dialogue that comes from stuff like this. And I think that it's promoting dialogue across the board. So again, it's an honor to be on this little rectangle of a phone with you guys right now. And I'm excited. And thanks for being a part of this. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
So Mohamud and Miracle, Rafael, you know, we've spoken a lot, and in Miracle, we kind of talked about some of the organic pressure that comes from having a name like that, right? There's a responsibility almost that is inherent, and, you know, we didn't necessarily ask for it, but, you know, it takes some strength. And so I really appreciate both of you joining Rafael and I on our mission to share love. And, you know, you guys are in Minneapolis, and you are at the heart of where this all started in the last couple of weeks. And so, you know, we've kind of talked about that sometimes if you don't know what to say and you don't know how to participate in change, that sometimes you need to, everybody has a platform, every person has a platform, and sometimes you need to step off of your platform and let others use that platform to share and spread love. And so right now, I'd really just like to invite both of you to kind of share with mine and Rafael's communities, but also any community that's listening right now and watching. I'd like them to hear from the two of you, you know, just our hearts hurt, but you're there. And so, you know, what's going on? What are you thinking? And what do you want the world to hear?
Just to add to that before you guys get going, because I am chomping at the bit for this piece of dialogue. It started off an excitement to reconnect with Ryan, and now it's just two strong voices in the community, two people that are coming from a position of an open mind, that are coming from an educated position that can perpetuate that education. Because I think that what we've run into is a large gap between the educated and the people that are just the least sophisticated as far as understanding what the issue actually is and some of the other politicized issues that are attached to it. But I also, to inform you guys, I live in a town called Danville, New Hampshire, where I am probably one of a few minorities here, but I have not, I go through my town page, and my town page is riddled with I'm not going to say bigoted or racist comments. I'm going to call them a perspective that doesn't align with mine. And I think that what's super important is that instead of looking at those messages and immediately being filled with hatred and rage, I have this amazing want to discuss this with the people that don't get to see what you guys see every day, don't get to see what I've seen for 30 plus years before I got to this community. So what you're about to say, with no pressure whatsoever, holds more weight than anybody can hold. And I'm so excited to hear this dialogue, because I want to take this and I want to just say, hold this, guys. And if you want to talk about it, I'm here. And I want to give that. I want to give them your perspective. So and I'm getting the chills thinking about it. It's a very exciting moment for me.
All right. So let me start. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So just like everyone all across the world, we all first came across that video on social media, which if you have a heart, like you're instantly connected with it and felt the sadness and understood like the weight that that video could possibly have on a person, especially a person of color, right? It was not an easy way to die. It was a public way to die. And overall, it was a very sad story and like touched me deeply. I'm sure Miracle touched you deeply as well. And being a person of color, oftentimes we do deal with police brutality. So watching that video, it's very easy to see yourself in that person's shoe. You may not be just saying George Floyd laying on the ground with somebody on his neck, but you may see yourself or your future kids in the same situation, right? When I first watched that video, instantly it was anger, sadness, confusion, all type of feelings all at once. The next question was, what do we do now, right? My initial thought was to protest. And when Miracle first reached out to me, he was a little bit at a crossroad, right? And I'm gonna let him explain that a little bit. Miracle, do you wanna kind of explain what you messaged me that first day of the protest?
Yeah, so the very first day, I had somebody who is on the same mission as me, who wants to spread love and be a living sermon of love, text me saying, hey, Miracle, have you seen the news? And I was like, no, because I was working on, I've been doing some web design stuff. So I've been super, super busy. He just sent me a link. I watched the link and I was like, bro, I'll be right back. I can't talk to you right now. I immediately reached out to my mentors, very influential people in the community, the director of the Pan-African Student Center at Augsburg, CEO of Nextco, and an individual who worked for the NAACP. And I asked, where do we go from here? Because we had just addressed this in January. I was speaking at Martin Luther King Day at Augsburg. We had a One Day in May event. And our question was, where do we go from here? Chaos or community, right? But after seeing that video, I was so enraged. I was like, where do we really go from here? Because this kind of thing has continued to happen day in, day out, like things just don't seem to be changing. Like we've tried the peace away, right? But look what's happening. So I asked, where do we go from here? And deep down, I really knew the answer. I know it is unity. I know it is community. I know that's the answer. But just after that video, like the rage, the sadness I felt, then I wrote a song. I wrote a song and I recorded it the same day and I dropped it because I was like there's no other way that I can like get these feelings out, but through art. But my mentors said, Miracle, like this is enraging. Like I know, but it's always community. It's always community. And so I was like, do we protest or not? Because I'm actually gonna read you the message that my mentor said.
And so while he's doing that, when Miracle first posed that question for me, I had not given it much thought. I didn't really think there was another option in the beginning. I thought right away, it is protest, it is community, and it is trying to get a voice out there so that the world does see that we're enraged by this, right? So same thing with Philando Castile. Every time there was a police brutality incident, it was always the traditional protest, but because of the extent and the level of impact that that video had on everyone, I knew it was going to be a whole lot bigger. It's just, it wasn't until Miracle had reached out to me that I had given it thought, maybe there is other options.
So I said, my favorite mentor, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? He said, community, always. We have seen and experienced that protests do not work. We need real power. We need real influence. I said, yes, sir, thank you. He said, this is maddening. This is tough. We should not have to go through this. History has shown us that if we choose chaos, we always lose in the end. It would have been that they killed us followed by we destroying ourselves. This is a generational problem. As hard as it is, we also need generational solutions. If we had enough wealth, we could shift the odds. Because we don't have Black wealth, we are put in a position to ask or demand justice from a system who is proven to never see us as just. I said, I understand. Thank you, seriously. I was gonna while out because honestly, I'm tired of this. He said, man, I be feeling the same way. I saw too many of us get arrested, get a record, then have nothing to show for it 4 years later. And the leaders who were leading a lot of it never looked back at the young people whose futures were destroyed. I know we will win. It takes the people like you to survive, to advance, and make them pay. I said, yes, sir.
Powerful.
So I know that we need real influence. I know that, I can't just be going out there in the streets and wilding out and, like I got to keep doing what I'm doing. And you got to trust the process. And this is a part of the process, like having conversations like these, not just, acting on instinct. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm willing to take risks, but, like he said, here are people getting arrested and having nothing to show for it 4 years later. So.
And then you got to look at what are the pros and cons to those kind of decisions, right? Sure, you may have an impact this day or this week or however long the protest may last. But if you end up getting a record or if you end up making a poor decision, what is that going to do for you in the long run? Are you going to be able to grow as a person and have that voice in the future to make a huge impact? Or do you want to do it in like this fashion, which may not work out so well for you in the long term, right? But in the end,
freaking incredible. And so not to cut you off, but you just hit the nail on the head as far as perspective is concerned. There's a micro and a macro effect, right? Short run, long run effect. If you make a move now and we act on impulse, right, and we're not calculated about how we approach this, you will have an immediate response. It'll be a shock and awe response. They're upset. Okay, we know that. They're angry. Okay, well, they knew that. The problem is now is that what you are now, and especially in the face of social media, is you are going to be a fad. You are going to be a headline for a very short period of time. And then 4 years, 5 years down the line, aren't you the guy that did X, Y, and Z? And then the only thing that actually follows you is your record. So then whatever weight your word held is now eroded by what is written in the document that is now online. So how does your voice perpetuate unless you're amongst other people that acted upon on impulse and are perpetuating this sort of activist ideology where, yes, you can see that there's anger there. You can see the rage, but where is the calculation? When we talked about it, right? How do we weaponize love from a perspective of collective minds that are all heading in the right direction? Because what I'm seeing out there is chaos that is trying to be organized, not organized chaos.
All right. And the thing is, like, love is such a natural thing, right?
Sure.
So when the protests had started, not many people came in with the idea that we're gonna set things on fire, we're gonna loot, and we're gonna cause damages, right? Oftentimes, it's a very few amount of people, mostly not even from the community, that these things are going on in. And then things escalate, and then social media or news, they tune in to that right away. So that's what you're gonna see on social media, right? They're not recording the bonfires, the barbecues, and the positive things as much as they are a precinct set on fire, because that's a better headline. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so we, like at first I wasn't even gonna protest, but then people actually reached out to me, people from my high school who've been activists, and they said, Miracle, we need you out there today. I dropped everything because I was literally just sitting there. I was like, am I gonna fall for anything or stand for something? And even though my mentor was like, like we see what protests do, I knew that this would be different. Like you said, this was on a grander scale. People felt like, it was like they could see their kids in George Floyd's position, for sure. So we met up at 38th and we made that march. I had my bicycle. I was helping to direct people. I was communicating with people. Leading chants.
Yeah.
And then
I had to make the walk.
Yeah. But when police started, like stopping people and cutting off, people were eager to, like throw rocks at them. People were actually pushing police cars away.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, guys. I was redirecting people. Like, no, that's not what we're here for. We're here for the main reason.
Right.
The main thing is to keep the main thing. Staying focused. So I was redirecting people. I got rocks thrown at me. But I know, like, long run, no, that's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
When we get to the precinct, and it's so peaceful. People are speaking, sharing, praying, and
And you had people of all like backgrounds, shapes, sizes, ages, anything that you could possibly imagine. And people were so willing to speak. One moment you have a 23-year-old in college speaking, and the next a 60-year-old woman that is speaking on all the times that she's seen protests like this and what her experiences were and the impacts that it's had on her life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right.
But then in the back, right? Because we're speaking in the back through the megaphone. Like we're sharing things like I shared like a Kanye West lyric, right?
And personal experiences.
Yeah.
People are big on personal experience.
So people are sharing like art and like personal experiences, and I shared, like Kanye West said in his latest album, Jesus King. It goes, to all my brothers locked up on the yard, you can still be anything you want to be. 1 from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3. 13th Amendment got to end it. That's on me. That's on Chief. That's on Keith. That's on God. So when I shared that, it's like, oh yeah, woo, big stuff, people cheering, But then like I make my way out round to the back, and I'm seeing like a lot of white kids in the back of the police station, like, like pushing at the door and like throwing stuff at it, throwing milk, throwing like rocks at it. And then the police is like getting ready to mace people because they got all their like riot gear. And I'm like, no, what are you guys doing? That, again, like that's not what we're here for. We're here for what's going on in the front.
And there are like it's not just a Black issue or a person of color issue, right? There's also white people out there that are tired of seeing us go through these struggles, and when they see the stuff on it, it hits home to them. So I don't know what those people's intentions were. Like I've seen the same thing. So when I had took a step away to answer a phone call, I had seen a group of not just Black people or white people. It was just a huge group of different kinds of people doing these things where they're throwing rocks or they're getting ready to like face the police head on. And so I don't know if that was because of initial anger or if it was genuine fully or not. All I know is that was what's going on at the moment. And I didn't necessarily agree with it entirely, but I didn't question it either because we deal with pain in our own way, right?
Absolutely.
What's amazing is Miracle. When this happened, I think all of us had some sort of knee-jerk reaction, and you went straight to people with experiences, right? Like everybody here, we're all in different phases of our life. And I did the same thing. Is I'm angry, but then you go to social media and you see people like me that are behaving in a way that to me takes away from the message, right? And I think that's why it was so important for me to reach out to Rafael and reach out to Mohamud. And I think Mohamud, after you posted, you had a really powerful message, and that's what got me to Google to see what happened. Was, Rafael knows this, one of my organizations may never have been started except for the fact that every morning he starts his day in the same inspirational and motivational way. You have a platform that inspires as well. You put up a message, a man with asthma, that when you have an asthma attack and you don't have an inhaler ready, and you're struggling to breathe, like your message meant something to me as soon as I saw it. I'd rather be shot to death than drowning on dry land, I think is more or less what your message said. So for me, immediately I started to visualize the worst asthma attack I've ever had. And the whole room started to shrink. And then I went on Google and it was just like, breaking news. And then I saw that video and it shrunk even more, and my heart's racing. And, here I am, I'm safe, I'm secure. And all of a sudden I could feel, that asthma attack coming. And that's when I broke down. And I think I sent you a message that just said, you have to do whatever you have to do, but I love you and stay safe. And we started talking, but just those words, right? I don't think you had any intention. You just needed to get something off of your chest, but it inspired me to do what Miracle did and start reaching out to my mentors and say, like, I can't just sit here. I don't know what to do. I don't want to be counterproductive. I don't want to, I don't want to be the sole white guy that's like, I'm going to go to war, but then not know how to go to war, right? You don't go into battle unprepared.
Right.
And I called Rafael and I said, man, you've inspired me and you don't even know it. And I went through that kind of checklist of things that I went through with you two yesterday on my experiences and my struggles. And, to then kind of see like, okay, those are nothing. What Rafael is dealing with, the leaders that he has brought into this world and is inspiring every morning to inspire others. And then the two of you, Miracle, you were not asked to direct traffic. You were not asked to stop violence, but inside of you, you knew that you had a responsibility as a leader, right? You didn't know what you were going to do, but people were asking for your guidance in what we do. And that's powerful. And that's why I'm so excited that we get to talk. And so I want to ask all three of you, but I'd like to start with Miracle and Mohamud. What do you need from me and my community? What do you need from Rafael and his community? How can we be productive soldiers on this mission without taking attention away from what the messaging is?
So, just the other day, I was at 30th in Chicago, where the initial video was taking place, and now it's kind of like a memorial for the individual, right? So every day, at any given point, you'll find a bunch of people there that are still protesting or still having spoken word and poems and everything like that. I think it was around 11 p.m. and I had a similar conversation with this Caucasian fellow who was, I believe, 37 years old. Never met this guy a day in my life, but he took a step to the side and asked me like a couple questions, and we had this kind of a conversation, right? He's all like, what can I do as a person that is nothing like you to further the agenda without taking away from it, right? And I said, continue to have those positive conversations, right? That's the smallest thing that you can do that will probably have one of the largest impacts. There's people that you can talk to that I cannot talk to, or you have people on your platform that I don't have on mine. So when you're sharing these videos, when you're sharing the positivity, that's creating a huge pool of people that are tuning into something that they may or may not have been tuning into before, right? They may have only seen the negativity to it, but when you're sharing that positivity, you're shedding an entirely new light on a subject that sometimes people try to create this negative stigma on, like, yes, they're looting, yes, they're doing this, this, and this, but what about these set of things that no one's speaking on or sharing? You want to add to that, or should I keep going?
Well, from you, honestly, like, again, spreading the positivity, because what's been going on in Minnesota right now, it's actually like the past 7 days have been honestly beautiful. Honestly,
I'd agree.
honestly, like I've been out in the streets every day. I've been south side, north side, southeast, northeast. Like, there is so much love, like, that is shown. Like,
Yeah,
there's so much, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of like donations of food.
there's food drives, I believe, everywhere.
Literally food drives everywhere, because our grocery stores have been burned down.
Yeah.
But like, so many like, allies and like, like white people have been putting into like the Black community and like taking care of us, and like, like
there's all of these like new initiatives, right? People see these things and they're not necessarily marching every single day, but they're creating these food drives, they're creating these fundraisers, they're creating these GoFundMe accounts, they're doing all of these things that no one necessarily asked them to do, but out of the kindness of their heart, they took a step forward and did these things, not knowing the huge impact that they could have on these families, that their local grocery store is burned down, so they may have to drive an extra 5 miles to get to, or because this set of stores got burned down, not everywhere is closed. Like, for a very long time, you couldn't go out to eat after 8 p.m., right? And so you're gonna have to have those groceries, you're gonna have to have those resources, and people were providing those, which I found very, very beautiful, right? And then there's the people with their artistic ability, right? You got people creating these murals, like not just murals, there's even at the location that the incident happened, they made this, how you say, like a graveyard with all of the different names of everybody that's ever dealt with COVID and died. And it was so beautiful. I was walking back to my car to grab my wallet out of the car. And this woman said, go down that way, you'll thank me later. And I went there and it was absolutely beautiful.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
But like, it's just a shame. It's just a shame that,
You don't get
Like
to see
you
that
guys
stuff.
probably don't see that. You guys
No, we don't. And that's alluding to what I'm trying to say here. There's so much more positivity than what's being perpetuated on social media. And I say that because you think about it, right? The last 3 months, right? This whole coronavirus, and look, we got to go back. We got to remember 2020 has been quite the ride, right? And for lack of a better way of putting it, 2020 is asking us to see things clearly, and there's nothing better than 2020 vision, right? So we went 3 months solid where the world, not just the US, right? Not just the inner city, the world was probably on the most level playing field it's ever been on in human history, right? Everybody had an issue that was the same. Everybody agreed upon this issue. It was a virus, right? So think about how convenient it was that at the tail end of this crazy, crazy virus, that the first cataclysmic event that we saw, think about it, wasn't even George Floyd. We're talking about, what about Ahmaud, right? What about Ahmaud? Fast forward to George Floyd. Why are these two crazy, crazy issues being so amplified? Why? Because they need to be, right? Race is a thing. But I'm here to argue that racism itself is its own virus. Here's what I mean by that, right? If we start treating racism like a human condition, right? And I feel like if we start, and this is where to answer your question, this is where I think we're going to be able to utilize the platform best, is because we're hoping that we can get professionals involved too. Like from a human condition standpoint, I don't want you to hide your racism. I don't want you to pretend that you're not racist. I want to talk about why you're racist. I want to talk about what you feel when you walk into when you run into the Miracles and the Ahmauds and the Rafaels of the world, or what we feel when we walk into a store, we meet the Rise of the world. I'm getting the chills. What do you feel? Then we talk about why, right? I don't know if you saw the Joyner Lucas video where he's talking about I'm not racist, and he's having that dialogue at the table. And what I would have liked to have seen out of that video is, all right, let's talk about root cause, right? Is it learned behavior, right? And my wife the other day, we're having this conversation. My wife is, she's, American, she's white. And we're talking about how accepting she is. And I mean, her family, she's brought up to be very accepting. She has adopted siblings that are of different races. She's a Mexican adopted sibling and a Black adopted sibling, both amazing children. But we all realize, and we have to realize, and we have to embrace the hypocrisy of the fact that we've all had some sort of stereotype either created and or perpetuated by us, right? She said that there was a cultural thing that she ran into that she noticed about Dominican men. I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban. And I said, all right, well, what was that? What was that connotation? And she said, I was told that Dominican men, treat women a certain way. And I was like, well, I think you just realized something here. Because let's think about this, right? Let's say your sister's back in 6th grade, right? And you had said that to your friend, whether it be a joke or in conversation. Your sister goes to school. There's a new kid in this rural town of Exeter who happens to be Dominican. Your sister's friend says, hey, the new kid's cute. Your sister says, oh, don't date that guy. He treats women a certain way. No life experience whatsoever, perpetuated word from somebody else's life experience. So now we have this viral idea that Dominican men treat women a certain way, right? So you see the pattern here. So instead of skirting or hiding these stereotypes, we need to start reverse engineering them from emotional and mental standpoint. So you guys have a major platform where you get to see all this and you're seeing this melting pot, like, oh my God, this is what America really is. There's every walk of life helping each other. But I task you with the idea of, hey, you're helping me. You're cool as hell. You happen to be white, but let's be real for a second. Have you ever had a moment in time where you had a run-in with a Black person, Hispanic person, or a German person? It doesn't matter. Because I challenge you to dig deep inside to find a moment in your life where you may have thought a certain way of a different race, creed, color, or sexual orientation or whatever have you. Because I think that if we can sort of, again, Brian, because you said it and it really resonated, embracing the hypocrisy of it, we're not perfect. But we can't take this virus, right, and go trying the vaccine on everybody without trying it on ourselves first. You get what I'm saying? So I think that you guys, a truly, truly powerful combination. The two of you together, the light behind you guys is emanating, right? So leadership again, great power, great responsibility. You could have easily said, you know what, these people are going to go crazy. I'm just going to go back that way. But no, you decided to say, we're not a rock, we're water, and we're just going to flow around this object and try to find a different avenue. Not everybody follows, unfortunately. That's like when a wave crashes, you know, water goes everywhere sometimes, right? You guys have stayed the course. It's easy to have this mob mentality and say, well, 30 people are looting, I'll be 31. It's easy to say, you know, all right, well, they're doing their thing, we're doing ours. You have accepted some semblance of responsibility by saying, I don't know who they were with, but they were doing it and it's not okay with me. That right there is a leader. That to me is a leader. So I think that if we can combine our forces, right, and weaponize love by doing a couple of different things, continue to perpetuate the positive things that are happening that the media doesn't want you to see because it doesn't sell. Love doesn't sell, right? Perpetuate that. And as professionals, have that conversation with the people that are closest to you and have that conversation with the people that are nicest to you and say, you know what? Real talk here, guys. Let's get some real chat on lines, right? It doesn't have to be recorded. It could be just you and I. But listen, sometimes when I walk into a store, I feel like a white person's going to treat me a certain way. I get pulled over. I feel like a cop's going to treat me a certain way. How do you feel when you walk into me on a day-to-day basis? And you'll find that either it came from a life experience or mom and dad feels a certain way, or mom and dad said that grandpa said this, and it's just perpetuated word. What can we do to stop it at its source, right? When you pull a weed out of the ground, right, you get the roots or you just get the freaking top. What can we do? Like, how do we do that? How do we weaponize love, perpetuate love, and how do we start to look at this racism issue as a human condition that can be not eradicated, not cured, but can be treated?
And Mohamud took the responsibility of this on his own, and I see it because we're friends, and I saw a dialogue that Mohamud got into online where somebody had provided, you know, their personal commentary on police kneeling and discredited the intent behind that action, right? And Mohamud quickly said, I believe that you believe that this is unloving in action. I believe that you believe that this might be a photo op, but we need more of these photo ops. We need
Absolutely.
to spread more love. And so if that officer that took a knee didn't genuinely mean it, but somehow in the ripple effect of life inspired another police officer that did mean it, that did love, then that's what needs to be shared.
Hey,
and I
if they
thought
can
that
use
was
fake
super
negativity,
powerful.
we can use fake love. If they can use fake negativity, we can use fake love. Fake it till you make it. I'd much rather use fake love as a weapon than fake hate as a weapon. At the end of the day, freaking good on you, Mohamud. The smartest thing you could have possibly done. First off, you're perpetuating dialogue by saying, hey, I believe that you believe. You're not saying they're wrong because there's no wrong answer here. You can't say that a person's perspective and their lens is wrong. All you can say is you don't agree with it. However, utilizing that and educating someone on that level, because who knows what that person does or who, you know, what they know or how much they know or what their experiences are. But if you can take that snapshot and let that be the next message. So right after the old man that gets pushed over is a cop that kneels. We need to start balancing and counteracting all these perpetuated moments of just asinine shit that's going on. Let's face it, like the looting of a Target makes no sense to me, but it made sense to someone. Why, right? Or you might find that person was god awful poor and needed whatever they took, and they seized an opportunity. Why? Like, we need to find out why. We need to find out root causes for us to get anywhere with this. Knowledge is going to be huge. I had a man in my town here who is known for being outspoken. He is if you were to think of a battle of wits with an unarmed opponent, and if you were to think of a person that holds so much weight and people listen to him so much just because of the work ethic that he's a great guy, but he says some things that are very abrasive. I mean, will rustle anybody's feather of any walk of life. And even he was pushed to the point of deleting a post that I had a recorded response to. And in a rural town like mine, they get pegged, or we, because I live here, we get pegged as, you know, uncultured, distanced from all this stuff, have no voice because of the fact that we don't live this and so on and so forth. So they have no ground to speak on, and automatically, because you're in the sticks with mostly white people, you're racist. So here's an example of now white people being generalized and white people being told that they're automatically racist because they're not in the thick of it, they're not in the heat of it. And in New Hampshire, what they do when shit hits the fan is, it's crazy out here. Got to buy more guns, got to buy more ammo. Well, how about we start arming ourselves with more knowledge, right? How about we start arming ourselves with more understanding so that what you have in that case or in that safe doesn't even need to be used. You have the right to carry, you have the right to own, that's fine. But let's not look at that as the option to the possibility of this war coming to us in our towns, in our rural areas. Because at the end of the day, they're going to run out of space, right? When it comes down to protesting, and when it comes down to the negative things that come from some of the protests, because there's a good and bad to there's consequences, I should say, to every action, right? What happens is there's an analogy that went out there on Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, right? And all lives matter. Obviously, they can't all matter unless Black lives do too, which is something that I truly understand and I believe, okay? And the Black Lives Matter movement has millions and millions of positives and a couple negative connotations that come with it because of what media puts out there. What the comment was in town was, it's all lives matter, which is the instant response to not understanding. It's like, well, we all matter. And then there was this cool little analogy about one house is on, I don't know if you've ever seen the meme, but the house is on fire, and right? So I explained that, and I actually acted it out in the video. And the only reason why I didn't post it is because he deleted his, and I didn't want to put him out there and draw attention to that guy's house and have a cataclysmic event in my town. But I said it to him personally, which is it opened up a great dialogue between he and I, because he is the voice in town. He's like the unofficial mayor of my town, and I want to get with him, and I want to really build with him. But what I said was, hey, your house is on fire. Our house is on fire. Next door neighbors isn't, right? Labor comes outside and says, what about my house? My house is on fire too. And the fireman's saying, well, and I get it. Your house isn't on fire. This one is, and I need to save this house. This house is on fire. This house matters. Your house matters too. And trust me, by putting out this fire, I'm saving your house. Because if we don't put out this fire, your house is catching fire too, whether you like it or not. And then everybody's house is on fire. So by saving this house, I'm proving to you that all lives matter, right? So I need more of that here in this town. And I need it from perspectives that are coming from level-headed people, because you guys have every right in the world to be upset. Everybody has every right in the world to be upset by all these events. You're choosing to use your voice in a powerful way, because actions do speak louder, but strong words backed up by smart and calculated actions are so much more powerful. And that's the difference. You guys being on this Zoom right now, taking the time to do this while you could be out, rallying and getting more people involved, you guys are taking this opportunity to spread your word beyond the city limits, because you are at ground zero right now, right? You are at ground zero. You're at the most potent stage or potent aspect of all of this, yet there's peace and harmony amongst burning buildings. Why can't we see that? Why am I not seeing that, right? So that's part of our job. And again, there's many layers to this onion, just sometimes when you cut into an onion, you cry. You know what I mean?
And speaking to power, Rafael, I mean, what you did, right? Again, like it's taking Mohamud and Miracle's message, but I have to do it here in Maine. Sure. You have to do it in New Hampshire. We need other people to hop on a Zoom call with us. Yep. and talk about what their community needs in terms of education. But absolutely. Miracle, I want to go back to you, because I see the fire in Rafael. Miracle has a way with words, and we talk about art, right? And art is power. And absolutely. You can tell that the way, and Mohamud I've known for a while now, and so I know that the way that he thinks, and you and I talked about, just if I'm walking down an alley, right, and I saw Mohamud coming at me, like, I'm not gonna, no offense, Mohamud, but I'm not necessarily my first reaction isn't fear. But Rafael, if I'm in an alley and he's coming down at me, he's got much more mass than you do. I might look twice, right? I might take another second. But my hope is that anybody that is got that much power over me physically, I'm probably gonna give a second look to, right? And that's natural. But the second that your mouth opens, the second you hear somebody like him speak, you're not afraid. You want to hug. And I think that that's what the world needed, right? When we talk about the world healing during COVID, the world needed a hug. And I think the whole society that we live in could use a hug right now, truly. But Miracle, I'd love your take on some of Rafael's leadership and messaging.
So, Rafael, you identified that the problem is racism. And so, I mean, we've already known this, right? White supremacy, right? The global system, right? And it's in all areas. You know, it's in economics, you know, it's in religion, it's in education, it's in entertainment, it's in all areas of our life, the global system of white supremacy. And so you proposed almost a solution, or maybe a way to get to the solution, you know, finding the root cause. But then, you know, I've been asking a lot of people, you know, where do we go from here? You know, like a lot of people in Minneapolis are like, no, we just got to get that cop prosecuted. I was like, okay, cool. So where do we go from there? Then they're like, okay, then we get all 4 of them prosecuted. I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then from where from there? Right now, Minnesota is working on defunding the MPD, right? And also, the Minneapolis public schools, they have all voted unanimously to remove, because our school would have cops like in every in every school. Now they have.
The alternative they're saying is having their own police force. They wear a different kind of.
Daddy, you know, some type of
Rafael, bring him in.
No, I'm going to. Can you say hi, Gardy?
Hi.
Hold on, let me get you up. Let me get you off the headset here. Hold on 1 second. Hi, gentlemen. This is Guardian. This is Rai. You remember Rai, and this is Miracle, and that's Mohamud. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Hey, Guardian.
This is my oldest son, Guardian, and again my little miracle, as it were. Maverick is actually coming down the stairs too, because they don't typically travel apart.
Can Rafael, can they tell us about themselves?
Absolutely. Hold on 1 second. All right, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go ahead and tell me about yourselves?
I'm self-sufficient.
What else?
We box and
What else?
my brother's keeper.
What else?
Don't get twine.
And today's gonna be?
A good day.
That's right. A good day.
Good day.
And this is Maverick. Ready? Come here, buddy. Come here. Can you come say hi to my friends?
These are the future leaders of America, gentlemen.
All right. This is Guardian Maverick.
Hey, Maverick.
Same dad, same mom, and you see the difference clearly, right? These two are tasked with a very, very, very big job that they don't even know yet. So Maverick, that's Rai, and then that's Miracle, and that's Mohamud. Can you say hi?
Hi.
All right, so Daddy's on a really, really important, life-changing Zoom call right now. You guys can hang up, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to pay attention to them, okay? Un beso. Un kiss.
Guardian.
That's fine too. I love you guys. Go have fun, okay? Mom should be home in a minute. You want to take the headset with you? You need it?
Yeah.
What do you need it for?
I need a headset.
You need a headset?
Yeah, for me.
For a year? For what?
My protect my ears. My ears be hard.
Okay, my protect your ears. Why don't you go ahead and use that one so Daddy can use this one? All right?
Can I plug it?
Well, you can plug it into your own device. I'm using mine for this one. All right? No,
That's mine.
Can Daddy use this, please?
No, it's mine.
It's yours?
Yeah.
So I'm going to borrow this from you. Is that okay?
Yeah, my ears be hot.
Okay, go take care of those things, okay?
Got this and my ear.
I know. Go take care. Can you settle up? What's up, por favor?
Mom and Miracle, the other day, the two of them were wrestling, and I think
I'll explain to you in a moment.
got
You
a
must know what I'm talking
boo-boo
about.
or got
We're
hurt.
opening up dialogue here, guys.
That's right.
Bye,
And
Dad.
Bye, buddy. Love you.
bye, guys. And Rafael said, he was like, so what was that? And he was like, natural consequence.
Daddy, go in the
You got it, bud. I'll take care of that as soon as I'm done. Barking orders. Sorry about that, gentlemen.
Completely fine.
So yeah, so as I was saying, we defined the problem. What is the problem? Racism. Right? Then we got to clarify the problem. Then define goals. What do we want from here? Because before it was what do you want? Oh, we want justice. It's okay. What would justice look like? Yeah, what does justice mean? And then it's okay, we want that cop arrested. Boom, he was arrested. Then prosecuted. Then we want all four. Then we want to get rid of the MPD. It's okay. And how do we really move forward from this? Defining the goals. Sorry, you guys.
Par for the course.
Super important call. Can I call you back in 15, 20 minutes? Thank you.
But yeah, some of that conversation was at the protest, right? So people were saying things like, let's abolish the Minneapolis Police Department. I'm like, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean no cops? Because I don't see that working, right? Or is there an alternative to it, right? Had a conversation with an individual and he's saying neighborhoods would have their own task force or have their own patrols. And I'm like, but how well would that work? Crimes, right? Maybe theft, it might work, or being suspicious in terms of going into people's houses and trespassing. But what are you going to do when there's a homicide or a robbery, right? That's where police would be necessary. Or do we want to change the portfolio of the police, right? Where they handle an X amount of different kinds of crimes, but something else might be a little bit more domestic, where somebody like governed officials would step in and see where they could.
Almost like mini municipalities within the community.
Right, and how efficient would that be in bigger cities like New York or whatever?
Right.
So everything would be relative, but the whole idea of completely abolishing the police department, is it realistic or is it unrealistic? Right.
So then in these goals, what is the feasibility, and then actually identifying the root cause of the problem and developing an action plan, executing the action plan after developing it, then evaluating the results and then continuously improving. So then
like a check system.
And that's a big task, but we would need everybody to get on board because they're strengthening us.
Right.
So
is it something you vote on, or is it decided on by specific individuals? Right? Do you let the community decide whether they
Interesting take, actually. You think about it too, it's we do census, right? But how many people do them, right? How many people actually fill those out? No, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible.
I have a question just in terms of thinking about this, right? And I think as our community here continues to grow, this is where problems get solved. It's these informal formats of leaders that come together and talk about real issues. And then what can we do, right? We're going to share love in all 50 states. And then we're going to expand to the world. And it started with 4 people on a Zoom call, right? There's no editing here. There's no branding here. The only mission is to share love. And I mean, what a beautiful example of that, your 2 boys who honestly, right, they are, in terms of this call and this moment, those boys brought all of us together. It was their inspiration that got 2 police officers from your town to show up and to share their love and to share their experience and safety with those 2 young men is really what they are. They are, again, future leaders. They're Mohamud, they're Miracle, they're Rai, they're Rafael. And they don't even know it yet. They've got such a powerful voice in such little bodies. And so how do we have these conversations? Because this is learned behavior, right? Rafael and I talked about, for me, I live in the whitest state in all of America, but I was very privileged. I was spoiled with love growing up, and I was given an opportunity to pursue education at a higher level that focused on diversity and inclusion in a big way. And so, for me, I was the worst basketball player in the entire league, but I worked hard, right? I was the spiritual point guard, and I helped pull things out of people that they didn't even know they had. And so for me, I had 12 brothers every single year that didn't come from the same mother. Just like I have 3 other brothers that are on this call, and we have millions of other brothers that haven't even joined us yet. But it's these types of conversations that just, they inspire me. They give me the chills. They make me think at night. Last night I was laying in bed and just really reflecting on the last 2 weeks of how did we get here, but at the same time, like, how is my heart still so full of love? And it's because, Rafael and I talk, not every conversation's recorded. Some of that raw, angry stuff, right? It comes out offline. It's not that we're not angry, we're human. And so we're going to label hypocrisy, and then we're going to try to find ways to minimize our own hypocrisy. So yeah, when I first saw that, I was pissed. I'm ready to go out and I'm ready to go to war. But the two individuals that I'm going to ask, how can I help? They don't want war, right? They want to weaponize love. And that's what just, talk about chills. Like, that's just what really makes the hair on my arms stick up, is just like, I'm here, I'm listening, Raphael's listening. And you know what? Hopefully someday it's going to be somebody else's house burning, and the four of us are going to show up, and we're going to put out that fire too.
I love that point of view, and what I thoroughly enjoyed too, Miracle, your point of really taking an almost hyper academic approach too, because data is so key. The numbers don't lie, right? Data doesn't lie. I think absorbing as much data as possible, and then what do you do with that data? And I think that we all have different ideas of how to approach this. When I say different, I mean different angles of approach, because everything has its, every sort of exit is going in the same direction. So we're on this massive highway, and we're gonna go, all right, well, you take exit 22, you handle that, I'm gonna take exit 21 and try to see, what the nucleus looks like. Hey, right, go handle, So I think that if we can really, this is far from our last conversation, I can tell you that much, if we can really get an idea of how do we wanna take, even if it's the smallest sampling, at the core, at ground zero, and pulling this data and running our own experiment of sorts, and getting an idea of what we can do with that. I think that if we can get some sort of a sampling, I think that it's something that we can bottle up and mass produce. It's just a matter of getting people on board and willing to share the raw facts about how they actually feel, no matter how supportive they are. Because you'll find, and I think that if you look within yourselves, because you guys seem to be extra real, and as we know, real recognize real, you are able to look within and say, man, I didn't say some shit before that either I didn't believe, or came from somebody else's idea, right? Like, for example, even on a positive note, you said this is the land of opportunity. Why? Because there's eons and eons of people that have actually acted upon said opportunity and done well. This country being the land of opportunity is a stereotype. That is a stereotype. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. And there's truth, there's fact to it. You are onto something, Miracle. Mohamud, you guys are onto something. I think that if we can put together some idea of the most forward-thinking minds in the community that are looking beyond justice or revenge, because they're not the same, right? They're not the same, because when you're enraged, oftentimes the word justice and revenge becomes sort of this convoluted cloud. I just want the eye for the eye. I want the tooth for the tooth. And that's that. But it is more that you guys want more than just them to pay, because it doesn't stop there. This is going to repeat itself at some point. We need to know what we can do to try to eliminate those goings on in the future. And you guys, I'm on board. I'm on board for however it is you guys think that can happen.
When you have these conversations, it's what exactly are you trying to focus on?
Yeah, like
right.
What do you want
out of it?
Like, so, because we're in ground zero. We're here.
Yes, you are.
Later say that there's a Fourth City barbecue.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of events later today that we're gonna go to. We're gonna be there. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to ask people? What kind of examples?
Yes.
And it's like an active thing, right? First day, like I believe it was the second or third day of the protest, the liquor store was on fire and everything, and we got an opportunity to kind of listen to the owner's perspective, right? What did he want to focus on? How did he take on it? Does he want to look at the loss of his establishment, or does he want to look at the bigger picture, right? Surprisingly enough, he was more focused on the fact I believe he said was, if this thing that had happened to my store can grow and positively impact something that I personally believe in myself, then I believe nothing has been lost, right? And that was shocking. Same thing as when Target, was it the CEO or somebody in the higher ups was talking about the fact that a store can be rebuilt, right? But then this is something so much bigger. So when you are having these conversations, or you as a person, what exactly is more important to you, right? And so you have some of those conversations with individuals at the protest. One of the protesters said, not everybody that's around you is your friend, right? Is everybody in this area genuine, right? Don't look at everybody as your ally. And I had to think for a second, all right? Coming here, I came here with the mindset that I'm upset and I want to, voice my opinion and see what people, and be around people that feel the same way, right? Is everybody here not feeling the same way? I didn't have that conversation with myself until somebody had spoken on it, right? So that just goes to show the power of being spoken and talking about things, right? And listening.
I think I'm going to commit to getting you guys a list of almost a questionnaire. I think that if you guys, first off, you have a great presence. And you guys are strong, strong people of color, and you guys have a purpose in mind. And I think that we're going to just fuel that purpose a little bit. I want to get some inside ideas of just times where people have felt like they're maybe being hypocritical themselves. Like, for example, like you are marching for Black Lives Matter, and you know that within that undertone that all lives matter as well, right? Because you're there because you care about human rights, civil rights, but human rights. Are there anybody behind those lines that are alongside maybe a gay guy that may have been a homophobe before you guys went shoulder to shoulder and said, I got to put that aside. It's beyond that. It's beyond my beliefs on that. I need to now march and go in this direction with this person by my side, regardless of that. So I have questions about how can you internalize that and say, if change truly starts with me, can I criticize myself enough to say that I've done this and I have proven to be able to come out to truly come out of this and still be an activist for the people that I think need the help the most. And on top of that, understanding that there's good and there's bad, but good people have done some truly evil things in the past, some that they'll consider necessary. And then you have evil people by definition, or bad people by definition, that have done some truly benevolent things, truly things that have been so moving because their moral compass is so askew for different reasons, right? So you may have a mass murderer that will jump into a burning house for a box of kittens, right? Where does that come from? You get what I'm saying? Like, we need to really break down the minutia, the micro element, because the macro element is there. We have all these ideas. We just don't have the steps and the protocols to get those things to come to fruition.
You know why I love that analogy? Because it's so dimensional, which is human, that absolutely the world's worst killer loves something, loves somebody. And let's talk about the world's worst political leader. That can take a lot of different forms, right, depending what year and decade you're talking about. But let's talk about the one decade I think that the entire world agrees that there was a leader in power that had loves of his life, that to some individuals, there was love there, which means that love fire can keep burning. Right. And so, to your point, I think, it'd be great if you and I come up with a list of questions for Miracle.
I would love that.
And
I would love that.
Anybody that watches this, one, I think we invite everybody to join us. And two, we invite everybody to ask questions. But in closing, I would like, Miracle, you're the newest member of this brotherhood here. And so I was wondering if you can just kind of leave us with a message, and until next time.
No matter how many people you've killed, how many things you've stolen, you said that mass murderer still loves something, and love covers a multitude of sins.
Whew. That's heavy.
Yeah.